Yeah, it's the pool behind me. Look at that. It's small, but it's effective, but still a little chilly here in Southern California to be going swimming. It's La Jolla, California, which is, well, it's beautiful. It always has been. It always will be. Unfortunately, it's impossible to live here. And that's the story. Well, actually, it's not the story. Disinformation is the story because what you heard from Secretary Mayorkas yesterday, some of the most frightening stuff you may have actually ever heard. The idea of a disinformation governance board in our federal government, who we are as Americans, absolutely being brought into question here in a huge way. Welcome, everybody, to the Morning Rumble. I'm Tony Katz. Good to be with you. Brought to you by Americans for Prosperity, right there, americansforprosperity.org. Letting us do this. It's offensive. And I got to tell you, if you want the litmus test, who's with you, who's not with you, who believes in the country, and who believes in something that isn't the country, well, there you go. You've got it now. You've got it now in this concept of a disinformation board. I mean, I don't think it could be said better than the New York Post, because this is just beautiful right here. That's Nina Jankowicz, by the way, who's going to be in charge of this board. We'll get to her in just a second. But this is absolutely Big Brother stuff. This is Orwellian in every sense of the word. The idea that the federal government is going to tell you, me, and we what is disinformation, who are they to do that? Was it disinformation when Dr. Anthony Fauci said no one should wear a mask? Masks don't do anything. And then, oh, by the way, you have to wear a mask. It's not only do you have to, we have to mandate it. Disinformation is the idea that somebody doesn't want you to say something. Now, there are lies. Well, of course there are lies. We're not arguing that there aren't lies. We agree that there are lies. But those are for us to decipher. Those are for us to figure out, not for the federal government to tell us what is a lie and somehow to be able to think they can tell us what is true, what is real. They can't do that. They don't have that skill set. They don't have the ability. They're not good enough. We should understand clearly that they are not good enough. They don't have the ability to tell us these things. Because if the government's telling you what's true, well, then the government's telling you what makes it easier for them to be the government. This is basics. This is the 101. This is why the idea of this is so absolutely positively out of control. It's obscene and despicable and disgusting. It is garbage. Cody here putting out a comment. What a time to be alive. That's that might be the statement of the year, Cody. Really and truly. Now, let me share some of this with you about this governance board. This was Jim Jordan, the congressman from Ohio, asking about it.
In October 2020, Jankowicz tweeted,
I take that back. This was Fox News talking about it, and I think they've got a Jim Jordan highlight here. Let me show it to you.
In October 2020, Jankowicz tweeted, back on the laptop from hell apparently, Biden notes 50 former NatSec officials and 5 former CIA heads that believe the laptop is a Russian influence op. Trump says Russia, Russia, Russia. Yesterday, she clarified that tweet. For those who believe this tweet is a key to all my views, it is simply a direct quote from both candidates during the final presidential debate. If you look at my timeline, you will see I was live tweeting. Today, administration officials were asked about her appointment.
Is this the same individual who said the dossier was real and the Hunter Biden laptop story was false? Is that the individual who's now running the Disinformation Governance Board?
I'm not familiar with those statements.
Been reported widely.
I'm not familiar with those.
I don't have any comments on the laptop, but what I can tell you is that it sounds like the objective of the board is to prevent disinformation and misinformation from traveling around the country in a range of communities. I'm not sure who opposes that effort.
Jankowicz gave an interview to the Associated Press in 2020 where she called the laptop a, quote, Trump campaign product. We reached out to her and the Department of Homeland Security for comment, but I've yet to hear back.
And I don't know if you will hear back. There are two things in there that are worthy of our conversation. First and foremost, yes, it's Orwellian and gross. And there is a litmus test here. The litmus test, of course, is the people who somehow think that this is valuable. You show me the people who think, I'm sorry, I'm having a little there we go. You show me the people who think that this is valuable, that this is worthwhile, that this matters, and I'll show you the people who don't believe in America as we do. They don't actually believe in the idea of freedom of speech. They don't believe that you should have the right to say what you want. They don't believe that you have the capacity, the mental capacity. You're not smart enough to determine what is and isn't true, what isn't real. You don't have what it takes. That's exactly what's being said here. I fight through disinformation all the time. Like, for example, when Representative Ocasio-Cortez says capitalism is bad, or when Bernie Sanders says we need one more government program, or when they scream tax the rich. I can fight through that disinformation. I share it here with you, and you share it on your social media feeds, and you don't need me to share it with you. You've got this figured out as well. That's just it. You're not looking for somebody to tell you what is real. You're not looking for someone to tell you what to believe or not to believe. You have theories and ideas and thoughts, and sometimes you look to commentators and you look to books and you look to other places to get education to maybe help you strengthen your position, or you realize, wait, my position could be better, and you make the position better. You certainly don't need government to tell that to you. And as a matter of fact, government can't tell that to you. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the skill. What they can do is abuse and manipulate that power in a way that prevents you from being able to think clearly and freely at all. That's the horror show. But I want to get back to what Jen Psaki said. Just for a moment, in case you missed it, here it is again.
What I can tell you is that it sounds like the objective of the board is to prevent disinformation and misinformation from traveling around the country in a range of communities. I'm not sure who opposes that effort.
It's my hand up. I oppose that effort. Because you, Jen Psaki, are not qualified. I don't know Jen Psaki. I've never met Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki is absolutely not qualified to tell me about what is and isn't disinformation. She can't do it. You told me for 3 years that the Russia investigation mattered. It didn't. You told me that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. It wasn't. You're not qualified. I want to make sure I'm clear and on the record. I want Jen Psaki to lead a nice, happy life and make all her money from MSNBC and raise her family and do all those things. Jen Psaki isn't good enough to tell me which way the restroom is. Never mind tell me that people aren't concerned about disinformation or somehow think it's okay for the government to tell me what disinformation is. This is an obscenity. That's what we're witnessing here. That's what we're watching here. It is this bastardization of free thought, which is really what they despise. Remember, all of this is because Elon Musk bought Twitter, right? Every last bit of this is because Elon Musk buys Twitter, and when they're not in control, they lose their minds. And if you say to me, Tony, it's not that simple, well, then you explain it. You explain how this works. They think they've got traction with this disinformation conversation, and they think they can gaslight a nation with it, manipulate with it. And what happens when the Disinformation Governance Board, by the way, how gross of a statement is that? That in America, that is something that you get in North Korea. Remember, we have had throughout history many moments where they've had the Ministry of Truth. Right? We've seen this. This isn't just Orwell. We have seen this in history, and we know how this plays out. These people have never read a book. They don't know anything about history because they all believe that somehow they can do it better. This is the problem with the elitist. The elitist always believes that they can do it better, that they know better, that they have some kind of secret knowledge that comes from on high. They've been tapped on the head by God and are now here to lead us because we somehow cannot lead ourselves. That is what Jen Psaki is doing. That is what she's saying. That is what this governance board is. And the people who support it, well, congratulations, you have found the enemy. And that's a really awful thing to say, except for the fact that it's completely and totally true. People who believe that government should tell us what is real and what is not are indeed the enemy. They don't believe in the founding of the nation. They don't believe in the idea of natural rights. They believe that we should be spoon-fed information as they see fit, and the only reason to do that is to keep power. This is not conspiracy theory. These are the facts as presented. This is what the rational mind comes to. But what's it like to hate so much? To be so filled with rage, to so believe that the Republican Party or the conservatives are non-human, subspecies. Remember, you hear about this all the time. They're Nazis, they're fascists, punch them. Well, now how can you allow them to tell you what speech is, or how should they be allowed to have speech on their own? Because remember, if there's a disinformation governance board, The first thing they do is say, well, that's disinformation, and that's disinformation. Oh, that other thing is disinformation. And then what they do is prevent those people from speaking out. And they prevent the social media platforms from allowing them to have their place there, their accounts, and then they stop servers from allowing videos like this to be hosted. And then I don't know. I guess you go into house arrest after that if you start becoming a pamphleteer again. You know, what is old is new again. How else does this work? How else does this hellscape end except with you being a dissident like Russia? How else does this end without people like me in a jail cell? Or you, or pick the person that you watch videos on Rumble, right? How does it not end with that? Of course, that's how it ends, because history has proven that this is the only way it can end. How dangerous is this? How obscene is this? How gross is this? It is that obscene, that dangerous, that gross. And it is a litmus test. And it is a litmus test I will use. If you believe that government should have a disinformation governance board, that's the difference between whether I am your friend or not. I think that's a good. I didn't know I had that litmus test, but you thrust this upon me. I gotta go the other way with it. If you're a sponsor that values a government disinformation board, okay, I don't need to support your products. If you sell those products, I don't need to buy them. I mean, this is a good one. This if you're asking me where you draw the line in society, sometimes I just found the line, because they are never afraid to draw one more and one more and one more. They're never afraid to take from you your rights. Now, there are a couple other things going on. Joe Biden is worried about recession, but he's not worried about recession. But he might be worried about recession.
Well, I'm not concerned about a recession, and I mean, you're always concerned about a recession, but the GDP, fell to 1.4%. But here's the deal: we're also had last quarter consumer spending and business investment and residential investment increased at significant rates, both.
Stop it. 1.4%, but it was supposed to go up 1% and it went down. It went down 2.4%. I believe if you consider they thought it was going to go up 1, it went down 1.4. That's down 2.4 in my view. Check the math. This is not a good economy. The fundamentals are not strong. The interest rates are going up. And yes, people blame the Biden administration, but don't tell that to Jen Psaki. You may have to listen a bit for the questions. Not Jen Psaki, Nancy Pelosi. I get them confused. They're both people who stand at a podium and lie to me. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, saying who blames Democrats? Everyone blames the oil companies.
That Chad.
Do you think that the public is blaming Democrats, or will continue to
No,
blame Democrats?
I don't think the public is blaming Democrats. I think they're blaming the oil companies. They will blame all of us if we don't do something about the fossil fuel industry.
But they won't take that out on your side on the midterms, even if you pass this bill and prices don't get back.
No, why would we say that? I don't think what you're saying is making very much sense, frankly. I mean, in all fairness, we're friends. Candor is part of our friendship.
Candor, very important. Here's candor. If you believe in a governance disinformation board or disinformation governance board, that's it. Yeah, we can't be friends. That's candor, Speaker Pelosi. People blame the Democrats, and they're not blaming the oil companies. They're just, I mean, that's just not how it's working. You can argue that oil companies have a role to play in gas prices, but that role is then blunted by the level of gas taxes that we see around the state. In California, I saw the pumps. They're over $6, baby. They're over $6. Let me go to the commentary. Hey, Penny, everything plays so smoothly. Oh yeah, we do move this to YouTube as well, don't we? We do move this to YouTube as well. Right there. I'm glad it's playing smoothly. I am not getting into the basket. First of all, I was never a deplorable, although sometimes I have been questionable. This much is true. I appreciate that right there. Here's the question from Jeff. Is there any action to stop this runaway train? So let's assume you're talking about this assault on free speech and on natural rights. The answer is, well, there are many things. Let me give you a couple. Maybe I could shoot 3 at you right now. Number 1 is elections, right? Matters quite a bit. Number 2, stop sending your kids to colleges, or choose the college very, very wisely. or help your kids learn how they're supposed to deal with universities that push these kinds of ideas and thoughts and philosophies. You have to make hard decisions. I used to be somebody who said there's no sense in sending your kid to college, but that's not true. There are reasons that your kid should totally go to college, and you should go to college. Of course, there are. It isn't for everybody, and we should be very clear about that as a society. And we should stop putting pressure on kids that somehow if you don't go to college, you're not a full-fledged person. That, of course, is not true. But you have to take a look at what those universities do and how they think. And you're not going to stop activism on a college campus. And I don't think you should. Your kids should get exposed to some people they may disagree with or some thoughts that are disagreeable so they know how to deal with those things. When I'm on a college campus, when I was on a college campus, and even then, it was Arizona State University. And I don't remember every last thing. I didn't see much of it. There were people with political statements. I don't remember if there were political statements, for example, against Jews. But they can have that theory. Was I supposed to go start a fight with them, or was I supposed to recognize that they were schmucks and then say, hey, where can I get a good bagel in this town? Which Tempe actually at the time had a couple good bagel places. I don't know about now. So your kids do have to learn how to work with those things and to deal with those things and deal with those people. So I think it's pretty important that they get exposed to that. But us making sure that the university is at least committed to free speech, that they've said so and that they've documented it, and then teaching your kids how to deal with that. That's what matters, right? So those are a couple ways. It is an education conversation. It is an election conversation. And when I should really say, instead of don't send your kid to college, stop supporting institutions that are against your existence and the existence of your kids. That would be my take right there. Let me go through the rest of these. Ang, what's going on? How are you? The truth matters. Yeah, the truth absolutely matters. I'm not saying no. I wholeheartedly agree. But what I find is, if we were to take a look at things from a cultural perspective, what if the truth isn't revealed at the second, but revealed over time by culture? So maybe the truth is the wrong word here. Beliefs, theories, ideas, concepts that develop over a millennia. We now have an administration and a body of work that wants to end in seconds, milliseconds. In some ways, they live in a broadband world, and they think they can just shut things off in a broadband way. That's one of the things that I believe in fighting aggressively. But things do reveal themselves over time. Was it truth that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation? Of course, it wasn't. It took 3 years. Well, really, it took the time of the New York Post to put out the story. But now we certainly know it for true that everything about it was real. And part of the reason it took 3 years is because, well, people fight the truth all the time. And that's what the Washington Post did. And that's what these so-called experts did when they wrote this letter claiming that the laptop was Russian disinformation. So we had to fight through that. These things take time. Truth absolutely matters. It just sometimes you can argue it doesn't present itself, or maybe said differently, it does present itself immediately. And then it's our job to ensure it gets out to the most amount of people and becomes accepted, because they take a look at it compared to the lies that are out there and they realize, no, this is the thing. Somewhere in there, I have a theory. I gotta work on this. This is Paulina. Now, Paulina Zismanova and I went to high school together, and were we in middle school? Were we in elementary school together? And she comes from Russia. Back in Russia, we had a choice of 2 TV channels. Channel 1, here's what government needs you to know. Channel 2, turn back to Channel 1. She's also a stand-up comic, and you should go see her when you're in New Jersey. She has interesting stories to tell, and lived the life, and her family lived the life, and she gets to now watch it again. She gets to see it unfold right in front of us. Anybody who doesn't think that there are just massive parallels, and not even parallels, this is what you would do in a repressive regime. This is what you would do in a society that doesn't value the people. This is exactly what you would do. You would create a disinformation governance board and decide that some people, well, they're not speaking properly, and so we have to do something about it. Remember, it will come down to we have to do something about it. And that ends with people in jail. Who's the Russian dissident? Navalny? rest my case. Anyway, I am here in La Jolla. I'm about to go attend a conference. I appreciate you being here as well. And I love that you're watching the Morning Rumble presented by AmericansForProsperity.org, AmericansForProsperity.org. I'll be back in the studio on Monday, but I got to tell you, I'm liking this. I'm liking starting a little bit earlier. I think that's got to happen. I think that's got to, that's going to be done. We'll get into it. Guys, be sure to subscribe. Rumble.com/Tony Katz. Rumble.com/Tony Katz. Subscribe right now. I'll catch you later.